from Los Angeles, this is the Echelon Radio Network.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Echelon podcast. And today we've got Don Jones of DMJ Insurance Services. Don, thanks for coming by today.
Thanks so much for having me.
So, Don, you and I have talked on many occasions, and I have a pretty good idea of what you do, and I want to get into that in a few minutes. But what I realize is I don't have a lot of background on you. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
Well, I didn't go that far. So I was born in Oxnard.
Okay.
I live in Camarillo, which is 11 miles away. But in the 67 years, I've lived in Hawaii. I lived in Northern California. I graduated from Loma Linda University in Riverside area. But kind of came back to where I started, was born. Interesting place to grow up, I guess, and interesting place now to live in.
And I assume for those that are from that area, it's got to be very different now than it was.
You know, when I grew up in that area, Oxnard is really an agricultural town. Mm-hmm. And then during the World War II, it became somewhat of a military town with a Navy base, a Seaview base, the missile test range in Point Mugu. And then after World War II, they had the Oxnard Air Force Base, which is now Camarillo Airport.
I didn't know that.
That was an Air Force base.
Oh, my goodness.
So growing up there, it was like the Wonder Years on TV where every house had 2 to 5 kids. A lot of parents worked or were connected to the military in some fashion or agriculture. So it was a rather conservative place. We came in second, I think, in the World Series one year. We got that far to number 2 back in Indiana, I think, in 1972. It's an interesting town to grow up, a lot of fun. So a lot different than it is today. So
gotcha. I got to ask, most people that grow up inland, whether it's 20 miles inland or 1,000 miles inland, try to get out to the coast to go to college. You grew up at the coast and you went inland.
I went inland. We went inland, yeah. There was no college. So there was no Cal State Channel Islands wasn't there. There was a junior college. There was Ventura, and then there later opened Oxnard. So you either went to junior college, which I did go to junior college in Ventura, but then you had to graduate somewhere else, which created an issue for people that grew up in that Oxnard, Ventura, Camarillo area was you had to go away to go to school, and then usually when you graduate, you get a job close by where you went to school because that's where the recruiters were. So people didn't come back. So my parents had several businesses, so I came back to help them retire, and I moved back to the area in 1983. And it was interesting. It was interesting dynamics because people that I went to school with had went to Santa Barbara or San Diego or Chico, and they never came back.
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, one-way ticket out.
Yeah.
So when you mentioned college and came back in 83, so you were probably in college late 70s, is that?
Late 70s, yeah.
And what'd you study and what was college like for you?
I'm a business accounting major. My first job out of college was, they called them stockbrokers then.
Yeah.
You were a stockbroker. It was for Payne, Weber, Jackson & Curtis. 1980, I think the Dow Jones was 920. Interest rates were about 14 to 15%. You get 14% in a money market account. It was not a good 15, 16 years in the market, so they were hiring anybody. And so looking for a job, that's where I started.
Gotcha. So take us a little bit on the journey of how you eventually got to DMJ Insurance Services.
So like I said, started as a stockbroker, started at Payne Weber, migrated to Merrill Lynch, transferred up here to Oxnard area in 83. My parents wanted to retire, so they wanted someone to kind of help out, kind of ease them out. They had a couple businesses. Left Merrill Lynch and started my own investment advisory company.
Oh, really?
And that worked out okay. The NASD is not kind to small brokers. It's very difficult. But I was also selling retirement plans, and then I got involved with selling group health insurance along with the retirement plans. And it just got to be a point where you have to go one way or the other. And I had a couple partners. They took over the investment side, and I left, and I went on the health side. So that was kind of probably 1988.
And this still was Oxnard, Camarillo?
Yeah,
right?
that Oxnard, Camarillo, Ventura area. And so I just said, this seems, people want to buy health insurance. They want to talk to you. They wanted a broker. The business owner felt comfortable. I felt comfortable talking to them. They felt comfortable talking to me. So the group space seemed like a very easy space.
And it would seem like you're local, so it's comfortable. You know the people, you know the area. And I'm guessing during those years was when a lot of new small to mid-sized business was coming into the area. Right? The ag is still there, but we've seen other stuff come in, and Conejo Valley has grown, and north of there has grown, and east of there has grown.
It's changed. What changed more than the businesses was the industry. So, this is prior to HMOs. This is prior to PPOs. This is when you had an insurance contract and you went and saw any doctor you wanted to. It didn't cover preventative services. Some of them didn't cover RX. Some of them didn't cover maternity. It was an interesting dynamic, and as it grew, as the industry started to change to slow down the growth in premiums, they started with these networks, the PPO network. Well, what's that? What's a preferred provider organization network? And then some doctors would sign up, some hospitals would sign up, and so you go to the PPO network, you get a better reimbursement than out of network. Then out of that came the HMOs, which are basically founded by Kaiser here in California. And they've kind of grown with that. And so the HMOs came, and then as managed care grew, things just started to change and migrate, and California was on the forefront of legislation for years.
So that's an important point. I want to just stop you there for a minute. I've heard people say that California is sort of ground zero for the healthcare system as we know it now. Is that correct?
That is correct. I'm going to say it's correct, but I think I can stand on that. A lot of things that happened in California got pushed back to Washington, D.C. So, and a lot of things that we do here are very much different than any other state. So, and we'll go right to the HMO equation because that's kind of where people fall. It kind of started here, grew here. It's a little different in that HMOs really aren't insurance contracts. They're contracts with a provider. So some states don't have HMOs. Most states have a PPO, which is a preferred provider, but they don't have an HMO. And the way they're paid, the capitated system of how doctors are reimbursed is different in California. But it keeps the premiums lower. In some areas, you have a big penetration of providers on an HMO. In some areas, you do not. So California was the only state that started with the HMO PPO. We could have one or the other. And as things grew, you had point-of-service plans, EPO, which is an exclusive preferred provider organization. They all kind of grew, but California grew. Legislation in California, which changed the dynamic of the growth and the cost of care, was then pushed across from the left coast to the right coast to the left coast, even though we are the left coast politically.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
So how have you been very involved in that legislation and all that stuff that did transpire over the last 20, 30 years? Very involved.
In the late 80s, I became involved with what's called the Health Underwriter Group. We had a local chapter called Ventura Health Underwriters Association. I became president, and I think 90 or 91 was on the board there for several years. Became the state president sometime later, and did that. And very active in legislation regarding guarantee issue, pre-existing conditions, getting maternity covered, making sure that plans had RX covered. A lot of these things that were done in California later swept across the country and became part of policies that we see today.
So if we go back, when did DMJ Insurance Services begin as an insurance service business?
So this agency, I've had three. I've sold a couple of them. This agency, which is just health insurance. I've been involved with some property and casualty insurances over my career. Started in 2016. We had another agency that was a partner of that wanted to sell to a publicly traded company. I started off at Payne Weber. I went to Merrill Lynch. I knew how publicly traded companies work, and it just didn't seem like something I wanted to go down to and end my career with, basically. So we split the sheets, or ripped the sheets, whatever you call it, tore the sheets, and I went my way, and they went theirs.
So tell us now about the company, about your clientele. You said health benefits, that's your specialty. You're not diversified in a lot of different, you really focus on that. Tell us about the company now. Tell us about your clientele and who it is that you're catering to.
So we have a very diverse clientele because we specialized in primarily health, dental, vision benefits for small to medium-sized employers. We have groups larger than 1,000 employees, groups with less than 5 employees. So it really depends on what the client is looking for. Many of our clients are multi-state, so we have employees in California, Nevada, New York, Tennessee, Texas. We're very good with working with those kind of programs where we can have different programs or slightly different benefits in each state. That makes a little more sense for the employees in that state.
Okay, so you sort of tailor them to...
We try to tailor the benefits to what the employees need in that area. The trend now is, with employer groups, is everyone seems to be pushing towards what they call a single point of entry, where if I put the information in my payroll system, can it migrate to my benefit system, to my employees, and then when my employee makes an election, will that automatically go back to my payroll system so we don't have to key all this in? And there are several programs out there that do that, where you can make it easier for the employer to administrate the plan and easier for the employee to understand and get information about their plans.
And you've told me, and I want to make sure I understand this correctly, and you've invested a lot in technology in your business, which was something I wasn't really aware there was a lot of technology, because I kind of thought you sign up for, as a business owner, you sign up, you get some paperwork, some onboarding process happens. But it sounds to me like a little bit of what you're just saying is that some of that technology is working on in the background. So when you do have a client who's got employees in different states and they want that more seamless approach to the data coming out of their payroll, going out and coming back in, is that technology driven now? That is. And so let's just start with the kind of the box that we're in now. So in most situations, a broker would get 5% commission on a policy, on a health policy. So as a broker, you say, okay, I got X amount of dollars to work with, and I want to provide this certain level of service. How do I do that from a business standpoint in a way that makes sense for me, but it's very attractive to the employer and the employees, so they want to use me as their broker versus somebody else. So we're all getting the same bucket of money. The prices from an Anthem, from an Aetna, from a Kaiser, from one broker to the next are going to be the same. So you're selling roughly the same product at the same price to the same customer. So I want to make sure that everybody listening has a good handle on that. I want to make sure I do too. So if I understand this correctly, if I go to you and I say, I'm interested in an Anthem plan for my company, and I call you and you give me some pricing, and I call somebody else and I say, I want to look at Anthem, I think a lot of us think there's money to be squeezed out here and there, and can I grind them a bit? But what you're saying is Anthem's Anthem, right? So the Anthem itself, if I'm looking at the exact same policy from two people, it's the same price. Yeah, and let me break that down a little more. So in California, small group is 1 to 100 employees. So those policies are filed in advance. The benefits are filed in advance. The rates are filed in advance. In fact, you can pull a rate sheet
and everyone uses the same rate sheet.
Gotcha.
It's illegal for you to charge more, and you cannot discount. So it's locked. So it's locked. So from a business standpoint, you're trying to figure, okay, how do I tweak this, or what can I do to offer a better benefit at the same price because it's coming out of my pocket.
So tell me about, okay, so if we're basically paying the same thing, why does it matter what broker I choose?
So the difference becomes, number one, there's certain things that the employer has to do when he offers a health plan that he probably doesn't know he has to do because no one tells you. The Department of Labor doesn't give you this book saying, oh, by the way, you're an employer now, and you offer a health plan.
Do this.
And you have to know about HIPAA and COBRA and privacy rights. And, well, by the way, all these other notices that you have to give out every year, Medicare Part D, et cetera. There's no, handbook that goes out that says you have to do this. Someone's got to talk to you about COBRA if your group's over 20 employees. If your group's over 50 employees, someone has to talk to you about the ACA filings that you have to do every year. So, yes, the plans are the same in California, 1 to 100. Over 100, 101 and over, the plans can be tweaked and changed, but for the most part, every broker has access to the same plan. So if you're a 200 life group and you want this specific Anthem plan that's for sale on the California marketplace, you go to 6 brokers and you ask for the same copays, deductibles, and RX, you're going to get the same quote. So,
gotcha.
Now, sometimes in those larger quotes, they can discount and say, well, I'll take a 4% commission versus a 5%. But everyone's transparent on what it is. Mm-hmm. You have to lay it all out in front. There's no large, huge change in numbers between the Anthem from this guy is going to be 100, and the Anthem from this other broker is going to be 90.
So it's not a car dealer where you go to one and they tell you this is how much for this new car, but you go to the other and it's at the end of the month and some guy really needs his quota and he's willing to darn near give it's not like that at all.
It's a different. It's for medical insurance. That's kind of how it's set.
So I know you've done this technology and done a lot of infrastructure, and you're providing these, I'll just call them additional services for your clientele. Tell us about some of those things that you do.
So some of the things that you have to do as an employer. Now we use all the newest, latest technology. Salesforce. Everyone's familiar with that. You can get Salesforce for specific industries now, whether there are companies that tweak it, say, hey, I want Salesforce for car dealers, or Salesforce for health insurance agents, where they've kind of tweaked the profile so it works for your business. There's companies that will provide you with all the documentation. I need a HIPAA notice, a privacy notice, a COBRA notice, my Medicare Part D notices, all my notices. Oh, and by the way, you're supposed to provide all your employees with a summary plan description on all your benefits and plans, which is separate from those given to your employees from the insurance companies. Most people don't know that. So if you buy the technology, it's cheaper to just give it to everybody in your book rather than saying I need to do one-offs for everybody. It gets really expensive to do it that way. So we just decided to invest in the technology to do that, and then for our clients, they automatically have them. In fact, we've had people that say, hey, someone says I need this form. I said, you've had it for 3 years. It's on your portal. Mm-hmm. And I guess it's my fault for not telling you that you've had it, or you just didn't understand what you had. Mm-hmm. So there's issues about enrollments. Now, most people now want to do their enrollments online. Younger employees gravitate to us. They say, why don't you have that? The older folks are saying, do I have to do it?
Yeah.
Because they want to use paper. Much easier to track and digitize documents than something that's scanned and handwritten. That's a big issue. And if all that stuff is online through our system, it's easier for us to say giveaways. Oh, by the way, we can do your ACA filings for you if we have all this information. Now, what does that cost? Well, if you went out and did that on your own, this year you have to file digitally. You have to file electronically. You cannot send in paper this year. It's got to be electronic. We're seeing anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 in extra cost for the employer to do that. So that's something you wouldn't have to pay extra for. COBRA services are done electronically. You don't have to pay for that extra. All your documentations, you don't have to pay extra for. Your enrollments are all done online. That's something that makes it a lot easier. Another thing that happens, which is really important, staff is trained, you're an employer, and you get a wage garnishment notice from the county on one of your employees. And it goes to your payroll department, and she may get 2 a year, and she didn't know what to do with it. What do I do with this form? It asks about payroll, and it asks for about benefit costs. I don't know what these costs are. So we do that for them too. So they send it to our office. We go, okay, here's the cost. Here's what you have to do. Fill this out. And when they send it to you, send it back to the county. And then usually the second one is the county then sends you another form that says, now you have to put these people on this plan because it's affordable. So there's a lot of these extra things we can do with no extra cost to the employer because we've kind of streamlined this whole process of enrollment and administering the health plan.
So as you administrate these health plans, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're taking a lot of things off their shoulders. And having worked at a lot of companies, having owned a couple companies, HR departments are usually not, really fat. There's not a ton of extra people. There's a handful of people that are doing a million different things. And they got to try to be an expert in those things. And it's almost impossible. They're hiring, they're firing, they're working with people on hiring, they're doing record keeping, they're accessing things. They're concerned about somebody asking somebody's age or gender questions that are going to get the company. So they're focused on a lot of different things. They're not experts, A, in technology, B, they're not experts. And the thing that scares me as a business owner are things like compliance, like missing that deadline. So this automation and this service that you do that not everybody does, not everybody has the same automation, not everybody provides these services, this is actually going to save them personnel time.
And that's a big issue because the owner probably doesn't know how this works in his payroll/HR department. He knows that it gets done, but he doesn't know who started it, who's doing it, and how long did it take to get it done. That's just an expense. And unfortunately, most companies look at HR as an expense. This is an expense department. It doesn't bring us any revenue. It's just something I have to do to stay in compliance. And oh, by the way, being in California, every year that gets more.
Yeah, doesn't go down.
There's more lovely stuff that they give the employer to do, and that usually gets pushed off to the HR payroll department. So if someone comes into the HR department because they have a problem with a claim, like getting a referral, an ID card, that employee, instead of working, is now talking to that payroll person, the HR person. So now you have two people who are not making you any money that you're paying by the hour, usually for, and are going to spend an hour or 2 hours, and you got a zero. In fact, it cost you money. It cost you money to have this done. So we had the system set up so we have train the employees, call us directly, send it to us. The HR person sends it to us so we can assist in those. So there's a lot of...
they send them directly to you.
Yeah, we have some that just send it directly because now we've enrolled these people in an online portal. Some of them just get it right away and say, oh, here's an email address. I can just send it to these guys or I can give these people a call and they can handle it. And we kind of bypass the HR system on that point. But the employer is not paying two people to do something that doesn't bring them any money. So in the HR department is just overwhelmed with new things to do. This year, for example, sick days went up to 5 days. So there's a new report they have to figure out for that. There's always something new every year that comes out that says this is something we now have to offer, and they push it off to HR. And we're trying to make that plate not as full regarding the benefit administration so they can kick it over to us.
So when a company, an employer, comes to you and signs on for their benefit plan, and they begin to get these administrative services that you're providing, they're not saving the money by shopping the anthem, because you can't save money that way, but they're saving money in terms of their employees, their output can be devoted to the other things and not to these administrative services. And that has to be a fair amount of hours over the course of a year.
That's quite a few hours. Your HR department, people think of it as an expense, but if your HR department has the time to hire the right people at the right time and then fire the people that need to be fired, that's how an HR department really makes you money. So taking those things off their plate that really are administrative tasks, they're not tasks that anyone at that employment really has any expertise doing. You're just outsourcing it to us to get it done.
So they are saving time. Because they're saving time, they're saving money. Mm-hmm. And then as a business owner, I would say one of the things that really hits me is that idea of I wouldn't even know what to file with COBRA or ACA, but you're able to do those filings on behalf of the employer, and you're doing those electronically so that there's a peace of mind there that really matters to me. And I would assume a lot of people in that C-suite, they want the problems to go away. They don't want to have to deal with them. And that gives them the ability to get that done without putting that on the shoulders of their HR people.
Right. And the best thing about filing electronically is you have a track, you have a record. Here's my record. Here's my documentation. Mm-hmm. This was done. It was timely. It's time-stamped. So we know everything's compliant and we're good to go. So it is a savings. Now, yes, we do shop the plans. You say mm-hmm. this year you have Anthem, next year you want Cigna, the year after that you want HealthNet or United Healthcare or whomever. That's part of the process.
Sure.
Changing the plan. Most of the systems you see now that we use, that other brokers are also using, they're set up as really a hub, and you can change vendors. And the new focus that employers and brokers are trying to go to is you want a platform where you may have 15 different payroll companies that you could use, all your known medical plans, dental plans, vision plans, COBRA administrations. And so if I was to key in a new hire in my payroll company, I want that information to go right over to the benefit portal and to the broker to make sure my new employee logs in and sees his benefit offerings, which are all now online. His SBCs are online that he has to have. His COBRA notice, all of his notices are online. He can make his elections. Those elections go directly to the carrier, and those amounts from the paycheck go right back into payroll. That means someone in his office didn't have to key in those things 5 times.
And this is happening fast. It's very quick, very efficient, and it's, again, saving that time, saving that money, and ultimately better for the employee.
Yeah, better employees, a better tracking system. They feel like, okay, I got a copy. I see it on my online. Most of them you can log in from your phone, your smartphone, and you can see all your benefit offerings. You can make changes online with your phone, and it's tracked, and there's a record. And I'm older, so I was always a little skeptical because you're not really trusting not having mm-hmm. paper. Mm-hmm. I've just grown up in the paper system. But for a lot of employees, they feel more comfortable because they have a record on their phone or a record on their iPad or somewhere they can log in and see here's my stuff.
So I'm assuming as employees age and we've got these new waves of younger employees, they've got to like this. It's online. It's easy to access, easy to see.
So let's say, for example, you're an employer. I'm going to pick a company. Say you got Anthem, alongside Kaiser, and you have Humaniford Dental, you have VSP Vision, mm-hmm. and you have Guardian for your disability, right? So they got 5 plans. So if you're using a paper system, you, the employee, you have to fill out 5 apps.
My head hurts already.
Okay. Name, address, social security number, all that kind of stuff. You do an online system, you put it in once, and you just check a box. And you had the ability to offer your employees a variety of plans from a variety of carriers, okay, that really may meet their needs more than just saying, I have to use this one carrier because I have to use this one form. They go online, they click the box, sign once on their iPad or phone, and that signature gets transported to all those applications, and then off you go.
So I have to believe that when you have a company switch over to you, that a year later you get a lot of HR people that are going to say, Don, thank you. Like you made my job easier.
They usually say that in the enrollment because they don't have to do it. So
it hits them right away.
Right away they see, okay, this I don't have to do that anymore. No, this is done, and this is done. So it is a change. They don't want to do it. It's not fun for anybody.
Yeah.
Doing the administrative work is not a fun thing to do for HR people. They'd rather hire people. The HR department is the cheerleading section of a company, right? This is our great company. This is our great benefit plan. This is how great it is to work here. They're like the up people. They're always trying to be up. They always want to get the
team players.
The team players. They want to get the most benefit for their employees. So they kind of like this idea. And the platforms are set up, and there's several competing platforms where you have a variety of options. So you're not saying to do this, you're stuck with this benefit plan.
You might even be opening the door to it.
You're opening the doors. Because usually if they didn't do it before, they were limited on what they could offer. Because no one wanted to fill out 6 forms.
Okay, so I'm going to switch gears, but I'm going to use a word that you just spoke a moment ago, fun. What do you do when you're not doing this? I mean, I'm sure this takes a lot, and you're very focused on it, and a lot of time investment into all that technology. What do you do when you're not doing this?
So honestly, I haven't been doing a lot lately, but I do have a boat. So
okay.
My wife wants to know why that boat is still in the yard. I love the ocean. Growing up, obviously, in the Oxnard area, love boating. When I was younger, I worked on several boats.
Did you?
On fishing boats.
The commercial fishing boats.
Well, for offshore fishing and diving as a cook. So I got to go on those and cook and fish, and that was always a lot of fun. Love the ocean, so that's a big passion. Haven't done as much of it as I want to lately, but that's probably my number one thing is get more on the water. And living in Oxnard, Ventura, Camarillo, it's a beautiful coast. And the coastline between that area and the Channel Islands is just lovely. Mm-hmm. People have not been out to the Channel Islands and gone out behind Anacapa or Santa Cruz and see how lovely it is back there. It's just gorgeous. So that's kind of my number one passion. I tried playing golf. I'm honestly say some people should play golf. Some people should watch people play golf. I think it takes a certain. You have to be able to relax to play golf, and right now we're very busy. And it's very hard to relax. So it's something that I would wish I could do better. And then of course we have a couple grandkids and we got stuff to do. So.
Are they local?
Yes.
Oh, so you get to see them.
They're right down the street. So.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Hey, Don, thanks so much for coming in. Really appreciate you sharing some about your business with us, and I hope you coming in again soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Presented by Echelon Business Development. More than just networking. Way more.